Today's episode is dedicated to Dina Myers. She was a friend to many and a light to everyone who crossed her path, and we'll talk more about her in a little bit. We're looking forward to today's subject matter because we feel like it's one that we both discuss a lot, are challenged by, and we feel probably many people are going to feel the same way. So we're looking forward to today's topic, looking forward to having this conversation. We want to thank you for joining us. Grab your favorite beverage and sit at the table with us, if you will, while we have a conversation that will hopefully encourage you. This is Looking Up Podcast, and our objective is to remind everybody to keep looking up no matter what, no matter what's going on all around. God's in his heaven and all's right with the world. Carla Moore um, is in Dripping Springs, Texas. I'm in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and we're good friends and we chat every week about whatever we feel like talking about. So we thank you for joining us, and we would invite you to also visit us at our Facebook group, Looking Up with Kathy and Carla. There we share extra things that we've talked about in the episode. We can engage. It's a great community of Christian women, so please visit us over there. All right, Carla. You look good and cheerful in that pink.
Thanks.
What have you been up to?
I was just thinking when you said that we talk about whatever we want to. This is a pretty good gig.
Yeah.
It's a, I mean, it's like an appointment to talk with your best friend every week, and that's we get not only to talk about whatever we want to on the front end, then we get to talk about things that we hope will be encouraging to other people. And I think it serves a dual purpose because it reminds us, you and me personally, how to be balanced about things and how to look at things a little bit more biblically. So I like this. I'm glad we get to do it.
Me too. Me too. And I feel like we've mentioned before that a lot of times the topics we choose to talk about are things that we find ourselves needing reminded of,
Mm.
and or they're suggested topics, which is today's was a suggested topic, but it's a really good one. And I knew it was one that we would want to tackle. I feel like it's going to be a good conversation. If you're new to this podcast, this is very unscripted. Carla and I just get together and chat. We usually pick a topic. We don't really do too much planning ahead of time. That may not be your jam, but we're coming up on our fourth year. We're
Yeah,
finishing on our third year, so come
finishing our
December
third.
will be our fourth year of doing this podcast together, and we really enjoyed it. So we appreciate those who have enjoyed it with us.
Yeah, yeah. So this weekend, you asked what's been going on. On Saturday, I went to a vintage market day. And
Ooh.
it was fun. And I went by myself. Usually you call a
Oh.
friend and
Mhm.
but sometimes when you do something like that, you have to go at their pace, and I just wanted to go at my pace. I had this X number of hours. I had like 2 hours I could go, and it was here in Drippin, which is a little unusual because we're a small town, but we have a great big, huge. It's called Ranch Park, and it as soon as I stepped foot in the door, it took me back about 15 years because it's where Micah did all of his FFA shows, and the those
Oh.
old the
Mhm.
showed the pigs and things. Anyway, it was vintage market days, and so it's like a part craft show, part antique show, part all the food and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. And I did enjoy going by myself. It would have been fun to go with other people. I saw some friends that I knew, but so I found a few little things. I'll show you a picture of it because I couldn't bring it in here. And um if you're just listening, sorry, you'll have to come back and see. But it was an old card catalog, a wooden
Oh,
card
I love
catalog.
those things.
I know, and I've looked for some.
I have too.
Usually they're big and they're just way
Mhm.
out of my price range. But this one, I told John, I just bought my own Christmas present, and he likes that, and I like it because it's something that I know that I want. But anyway, I turned it into my recipe file. At least
Cute.
one of the drawers I made a recipe file. So
That's
I found
perfect.
that there. And then I found some fun little if you're watching, you can see it's a little pouch made out of an old quilt. And it's like the size of a Kleenex, one of those little Kleenexes that you can stick in
Hmm.
your purse, but I'll probably put lip balm or something in there. Anyway, I took a notion when I got home. I thought I could make something like that because I have an old quilt, and I could make a little zipper pouch that can carry things in my purse. And let me tell you, I nailed it. I nailed it. You're allowed to laugh because it's totally not nailing it.
Good.
It's supposed to be a round pouch, and I did
Oh,
the zipper put together. I did do
you
that.
meant for it to be a hexagon, right?
I don't even think it's a hexagon. I mean, I got when I stitched it around on on the inside, and then I turned it inside out. I just sat here and laughed because I didn't take into account the bulk of the batting inside, and
Oh, I
I
see.
mean, it's terrible. It's terrible, but I had fun trying anyway. So I just nailed that project.
It looks like that Christmas tree that I tried to make when we had the daughters-in-law and over, and we were supposed to be a really simple outline of a Christmas tree that you stuffed, and made a little ornament out of it. And mine
Mhm.
just looks like a blob.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could still use it. Technically, it's useful, but it's not the least bit attractive. And so I just wasted part of an old quilt, but oh well, I had fun doing it.
Well, this week I put a sewing machine in my wish list on Amazon.
Did you?
I did.
You have
I
to
did.
come down
Yeah.
and we'll sew together.
Well, the reason I did is because this one showed up in my Pinterest feed. I was enticed.
Mm-hmm.
And Singer is making one that looks kind of retro. It's black and it
Black.
has like more of that old-fashioned outline design and comes with a big black case. I mean, it was just
Yeah,
beautiful. And I
I've
was like,
seen those.
"Mm." So I thought, well,
Does
maybe.
Christina know how to sew?
Well, yes, because she has made me an apron before.
So she could probably. Well, do you know the basics of sewing?
I know how to sew a button.
Well, that's like
I made a
hand.
D in my sewing class in high school. So,
Okay, so you would need someone to teach you a little bit.
yeah. Yeah, I
Well, I
mean,
would do.
I had like one of those brother sewing machines
Mhm.
briefly when I was a young mom, and I just got so frustrated. I mean, I don't know what I was doing wrong, but I didn't understand the pattern language and with the thread and bobbins always getting, janked up and stuff. It was just very frustrating to me, and it was
Yeah.
not it was not the right time of life
Yeah.
with small children, I guess. But anyway, and the card catalog, I've been looking on Marketplace for a while, ever since we moved upstairs
Mhm.
and we turned that room into our library, and that's where we have our coffee every morning. I thought I want one of those old wooden card catalogs in here. So I've been looking too, but you're right. Most of them are bigger and more expensive and
Yeah, I've never seen just a two drawer before. It's always
Mhm.
been, and it's full. I mean, it's not like pulled out of a larger piece. So it's
Mhm.
a full one, but they're usually just so expensive. And so when I saw this one, I was like, "Ugh, this is my Christmas present."
It's
And
beautiful.
I don't know what I'm going to put in the other drawer, but I loved putting my recipes in that one drawer. And it had the old cards in it.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
They're not
Mhm.
used, they're just blank cards, but it's wood with the dovetail joints and stuff. So it's just really pretty.
Very nice.
Yeah. What'd you do this weekend?
We had a full weekend. Well, I was going to share about Kelly Nix and Lee Wheat. They're sisters,
Mhm.
and every year they have what they call a girl party for all of their girl members of their family, and they have a large family. They're related to everybody in Bowling Green somehow,
Yeah.
and they've been hosting this party in Kelly's home for over 20 years. I mean, they gave the exact number, but I can't remember what it was. And anyway, I was honored to be able to attend this
Hmm.
year, and it's so fancy in that they make this full course meal and they wait on you. So everybody comes in and sits down and they bring the food to you, they bring your drinks to you. They had multiple desserts and they brought them on a plate, like a sampler platter of all the desserts. So that alone, is like so special to me. And and then there's games and activities and prizes, and it's just a fun time. It's just a fun time of fellowship and sweetness. And there was like a gingerbread house competition and, all these things. But I was looking around at Kelly and Lee's they were hosting, and they have this rich history with these women of all different ages. You know, some are cousins, some are aunts, some are nieces. Um, they're just I was gonna say, what was I? Oh, I know what it was. So we had a gingerbread making contest this year, and they were talking about the fact that a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago, they had done that in this one group. So everybody gets together in groups for the activities, and there's
Mhm.
prizes. This one group was having a hard time keeping their gingerbread house upright. And so they had the genius idea to kind of destroy it, and they called it after the tornado. Well, a week later is when the big tornado came through Bowling Green, and one of the
Wow.
members of that group had her house destroyed in that tornado.
And wow.
Can you imagine?
Mm.
And so, anyway, this year they had another gingerbread making contest, only it wasn't out of like real gingerbread. It was like a little kit that you put together. And this woman who lost her home in the tornado said, "No tornado gingerbread houses." No.
Kidding.
We are not doing that this year. But I just can't even imagine. I mean, how terrifying.
No
But
kidding. And
anyway,
in
it was a great,
December, that's so unusual in December too.
well, apparently that's a thing here. This our bigger tornado season. See, the fact that we even have a tornado season is disturbing to me. Our
Uh-huh.
bigger one is later. I mean, earlier in the year, like come, I guess
Usually March and April is
March. Yeah.
ours.
But
Mhm.
this is our minor tornado season. So we'll still have bad weather and high winds and
Yeah.
all
I
that
had
kind of.
no idea that Kentucky was so volatile weather-wise until you moved
Oh, we
there.
didn't either. Yeah, we didn't either.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then Monday we celebrated Emily's birthday, our daughter-in-law Emily. So the kids came over and we played that game Priorities, which I mentioned in the last episode. We ordered our own set and played it. It was so much fun. It really is. And again, the same thing happened when it was Neil's turn. I didn't get them right, and when it was my turn, he got all of them right. This is awful. This
He
makes
did
it sound
that on
like he's a
purpose,
better
though.
husband to me than I'm a wife to him.
No, I think he did it on purpose. He just changed his answers afterwards
Yeah.
to make him look good.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Once
That
again,
sounds better. Yeah.
I rue the fact that he listens. Sorry, Neil, you didn't do that, I'm sure. I ordered one of those, by the way, the priorities for us to play at Christmas. So
Oh, y'all are gonna love it.
yeah, you shared
I
it
mean,
this
they,
morning.
what's that?
You shared it this morning in the group, and it's on sale. I think it's like
Oh, yeah.
almost half off.
When you find a game that the kids like enough that they want to play again, that's always a good sign to me. And especially now that our kids have small children, they don't stay as long. You know, they want to get their kids home and in bed. But even though it was getting kind of late, Carl kept saying, "Oh, let's play again, let's play again." And then he was going, I guess we should get the kids home, you know. So that's a good sign when they want to play again, then when they want to keep playing a game. So, and that one nailed it. So,
Fun.
yeah.
Well, I had my doctor visit last week. Well,
Oh,
it's one of
fun.
those, yeah, so much fun. She does it part one, part two. Part one, you go in, you do the blood work and all the stuff, and then part two is when they tell you all of your results. So I'm
Mhm.
always more nervous about part two than I am part one.
Right.
But anyway, I got mostly gold stars, and the things that weren't gold stars are workable. But it's funny because later that same day, I got a picture, a text from Katrina Steersman, and she said, "This made me think of you." And it was a picture of a woman on, texting someone, and it said, "Nothing screams midlife more than getting a text like this the morning after a party." And the text was, "Here's the link to the magnesium that I told you about last night." And she did. She told me about some really good magnesium. But I thought, my
So
doctor,
true.
and I don't know why, but I hate going to the doctor. And Jerry Bellier, if you're listening, that doesn't mean anything bad about you. She's a PA in the same office as my doctor. But so she'll always say at the beginning of the visit, just want to ask you, so this is your visit. You tell me some things that you want to talk about. And so what we spent the bulk of the time talking about was arthritis and hormones. And I thought, I am of that certain age now where I want to talk about arthritis and hormones. But anyway, I'm glad that that's over with for another year. Always, I don't know why I dread it. There's nothing bad about it. I just don't
Well, I'm
like it.
glad you got mostly good stars, gold stars. That's good
Hmm.
news.
Yeah, yeah. So that was
Did I
that was.
talk about my magnesium on here?
I don't know. I don't remember it. If you did,
Um, Sorry, I'm chewing up this cough drop.
yeah.
Okay,
As
now.
long as you don't spit it out.
Well, I had started taking reacted magnesium based on some advice from somebody who's been to see a hormone specialist and started taking it, consistently. And then, recently in September, I had some female issues where I was, possessed of the devil for a long time. And I had carryover itchiness. Let's just say that my whole body, okay, this is everybody, you're welcome. Welcome to my personal life. Um, like my whole body would just start itching like crazy. My stomach, my back, my head. I mean, just, and then it would go away. And then I'd start itching, and I thought I was allergic to things now, maybe because I know your skin gets more sensitive. So I switched everything over to unscented, everything. That didn't change it, so I start, maybe I'm not drinking enough water, maybe I'm blah, blah, blah. And then I finally started looking at what have I changed? I mean, I don't take things, I have a natural supplement that I take and singular. And I thought, what have I changed? And the only thing I could come up with is the magnesium. And I thought maybe I've developed some kind of reaction to magnesium. I don't even know if that's a thing. I mean, it was like a switch. As soon as I stopped taking it, all that itchiness went away and I started sleeping through the night.
Really, magnesium is supposed to help you sleep.
I know, that's why I started taking it. But I was getting up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And as soon as I stopped taking it, the itchiness went away, and I have not gotten up in the middle of the night one time since. And I probably quit taking it like a month ago.
Wow. What
So
kind of magnesium was it?
it was called Reacted Magnesium.
Hmm.
It was recommended, and you pick it up at like a local pharmacy here.
Interesting.
I'm just saying that was my story, is I reacted to it.
But so you had started it right around the time that you were sick, or you had
No,
been on
I'd been taking it. I'd been taking it for a few
it?
months.
And then when you got off of it, I wonder if, well, I spend so much time wondering, like, why did I have to get up more last night than normal? Because I didn't do anything different yesterday. And I just sometimes I'd get tired of trying to figure out life
Hmm.
and medicines and supplements and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, we let's not spend all of our time talking about hormones and arthritis, and we're
Old
showing
people,
our age.
old
Yeah.
people stuff. Well, I was going to share on here that Bailey Debris has picked up the game of chess. She texted me about it, and her situation's very similar to ours. So her husband is Nick. She said that he knew how to play, but he hadn't played in years. And it's the same with Neil. He knew how to play, but hadn't played in probably 20 years or more. And she said, she told me last night or the night before that she finally beat him. They played like 13 games within the past week, and then she finally beat him. So I'm finding hope in that because I don't think that I don't think that I don't think I have the right mind for chess. I mean, there's a lot of strategy. You have to be very smart. And Neil and I played last night, and I'm still like, that's really our first whole game.
Hmm.
So I'm still like, what does this piece do? How can you move this piece? And I kept forgetting certain things. But when it was his turn, he would move. When it was my turn, I'm staring at it, I'm like looking at all the pieces. Uh, uh. If I move this, what's going to happen here? And and it was like stressful. And so, of course, Neil beat me. And then afterwards, he said, "Was that fun?" And I went, but I think it will be when I actually learn, like in my mind, have settled how the pieces work and what the strategy is. And I think I can see the potential for fun, but right now I feel kind of dumb.
Well, you don't like losing. You're competitive. So that probably
True.
enters into that. I know nothing about chess. literally nothing. I know there's a queen and rooks and pawns and stuff, but I don't know what you do with them.
Yeah, when we first set it up, it makes me feel very cerebral, just the fact that we have one set up in our home. It looks good, makes me
Mm.
look like we're smart people. But there is a learning curve for sure. And when I played, I didn't feel smart at all.
Well, I know how to play Candy Crush, so
There you go.
that's my brain exercise strategy
Yeah.
for the day.
Yeah. I also wanted to share on here a while back, I shared about asked people to, if they were willing to send cards to a woman who was going through a very difficult time. Well, her name is Shannon Anthony, and she had a granddaughter, 4 years old, diagnosed with leukemia recently. Well, I wanted to say that a couple of days ago, she was able to come home from the hospital after about 2 solid months this time in the
Mm.
hospital. So that's good news. Of course, they have long-term care, but again, I just wanted to thank everybody. She wanted to pass along to us. Thanks for all the meals and the cards and the gift cards and the money. And I know that this looking up audience played a big part in that. So many people reached out to her and encouraged her and sent cards and money and gift cards and it. So just know, hugely appreciated. And she really wanted to pass along her thanks to everybody.
So they're home now, and will they have to be homebound or will they be able to go places? Do you know?
I don't know all that. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Mm. I know that's challenging. So
hmm
I heard something on the Today Show this morning that I wanted to see what you thought about it. It was that Australia has now banned social media for anyone under the age or 16 and under. It's like
Really?
banned. Yeah, you're not allowed. They actually you have to have proof of your age. That it shut down all of the accounts for anybody under 16. Maybe it's 16 and
Wow.
under, or I can't remember exactly. But I thought, and they, the Today Show hosts were all about it. They're like, "Oh yeah, this is a great thing." I don't know. I don't know if they would feel that way if it was here, depending on who suggested it. But I thought, why? First of all, parents would need to be the ones to step up and say, "No, you're not going to do that." But I would think that that makes it easier for parents to say, "No, it's against the law." But all the studies that talk about how it affects teenagers and younger, the ones who are younger, as far as their, um, it just affects their self-esteem and the things that they want to be about and what they're influenced by. And I thought that was interesting that Australia banned it. And I think of Australia as being a pretty liberal country.
Mhm. My
What do you
knee-jerk
think?
reaction is to think that that's brilliant.
Hmm.
I mean, we have laws in place for when kids can drive because they need to be old enough and mature enough to handle such a heavy responsibility, you
Hmm.
know, potentially dangerous activity. And I think, social media has been around long enough that, like you're saying, the studies are out that are showing the negative impact that it has on young minds. So I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought so too. Um, Again, I think that parents should have already been the ones to say, you're not going to be, and a lot of people that I know are that way. But because it started out as different when my kids, I can't remember how old they were when it started. They were teenagers, I guess, when they were allowed, but it's just become such an influential part of a teenager's life, and it shouldn't be. So
That's a
I guess,
pretty significant demographic for the marketing too, so that's impressive.
yeah, yeah. And I've heard about skincare for 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
And I think, why does a 6-year-old need skincare routine? To me, that's just getting them down that road of what all you need to spend money on and make yourself look a certain way. So anyway, I thought it was pretty interesting.
That is interesting. Huh. Hmm. All right. Do you have anything else you want to share?
Well, I know you're going to talk about Dina, but I also wanted to mention Luann Rogers. And I don't know that did you know Dave is her husband, Dave and Luann Rogers? I don't know if you had met them. I would be real surprised if you had not come across Luann at some point. But she was a good friend. I've known her forever. And she passed away suddenly on Friday. She had a heart attack. And
Oh,
yeah, it when I thought about it, her mother donated a kidney to her probably 20 plus years ago, maybe even more than that, may have been 30 years ago.
hmm.
So she had some health issues, but I just saw her not too long ago, and I was just so surprised and sad by that, and wanted to express my sympathy and my love to the Rogers. Her maiden name was Stewart. In fact, when I told John, or John told me, and then I told someone else that Luann Stewart passed away. I didn't even know her as Luann Stewart. She was married when I got to know her, but just she was a such a good woman. Did a lot of Bible study books for women and videos and spoke a lot. And just, she was a wonderful woman. She was one of the things I always think about with her the day after we got married. So we married on June 14th, a Saturday. And on June the 15th, we were on our way up to New Mexico for our honeymoon. And it was a Sunday. So we stopped for worship that morning and she was there. That was where her husband preached, where we ended up stopping for worship. And I just remember how friendly and sweet she was. You know, the day after your wedding, you kind of just want to go, just get moving on your honeymoon. But she was just so sweet. She had a baby in her lap. And anyway, just wanted to express love and sympathy to the Rogers and the Stewart family for the passing of Luann.
Mm, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's all.
Well, so today's topic I thought is going to be perfect for the lady that we want to honor, that we want to remember. And I mentioned in the beginning, we're dedicating this episode to Dina Myers, and she knew hers wasn't sudden and unexpected. She'd been battling cancer, and she knew that the time was coming at some point, and she and her family have been preparing for it. And just imagine how that changes your outlook on so many things when you know your time is short. Not everybody has that opportunity, but she knew her time was short. But today's topic is, I don't know what we're going to call it, but it has a lot to do with how to love and serve others, but still be present for your own family. How love the whole world and be there for your own family at the same time. And I thought, what a perfect topic to talk about and to think about Dina Myers, because when the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of her is her genuine love and interest in other people. I mean, absolutely genuine. I shared her picture the day she died, and the people that commented all said the same thing. To meet her is to love her and feel like you have a friend for life, because she had that ability to make you feel like you were special to her. And you walked away from her feeling that way. And, every conversation with her was going to be uplifting, encouraging, not in a Pollyanna saccharine kind of a way, but in a genuine, I love you. God's got this. And you don't have to go through it alone. I mean, she just had that ability to refresh your heart. That's what I said when I was asked what comes to mind when I think about her is she was truly somebody that refreshed my heart in the Lord. And she had she was had a role in ministry. She had a beautiful garden. She had a beautiful home that she opened up to so many people through the years. She had a knack for befriending people that she worried didn't even really like her, but she didn't let that put her off. She just was determined to love on them anyway, and ended up becoming good friends. I mean, that's just the kind of person that she was. But she had a family. So this idea of how to find that balance of, we know that we're to love God with all of our heart and then love our neighbor as ourselves, the first commandment and the second commandment. And so sometimes in this world of, especially in this Christian living lifestyle, there's all these good things that we want to be a part of and all these good things that we want to do. And when you have a heart to want to be with people and do for people and take care of needs and fellowship and all these wonderful things, And then you have your family. Sometimes it can seem like investing in all of these other good works makes you feel like you don't have enough time for your family, or you're not spending as much time with your family, or you're depleted, like energy level wise, when it comes to taking care of your family. So I think that's the gist of the suggested topic is how to find that balance between wanting to be there for other people and love on other people, but being present for your family and not missing out on any of that. So that's what we're going to attempt to talk about today. And I thank God for Dina Myers and her example in this. And in fact, I thought it was really interesting that, in my mind, I knew I was driving today's episode and I thought, I want to dedicate this to Dina Myers. And that same thought is going through your head because you texted me and said, we need to do an episode called Why We Want to Be Like Dina. She just had that kind of naturally beautiful impact on people that brings out the best in you, and you just walk away so grateful for having spent time with her. So, how can we emulate that? How can we have that right kind of balance in her family loves her and held her up in honor and is going to miss her tremendously. But so did her friends and her church family and all these people that God put in her life.
Yeah.
So, how did she do that? And I don't know that we can attempt to answer that accurately and 100%, but I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah. She, you knew her a lot better than I did. I was only around her 2 or 3 times, but I talked to her quite a bit and we messaged back and forth. And you mentioned how she made people feel special, and it was because she told them. She wasn't afraid to say how she felt. And I think so many times I don't know, do we pull back because we don't want to show our hand about how we feel about someone because they might not feel the same way about us? But she was never afraid to say, I love you. You're special. You do such a wonderful work with XXX, whatever. And she was just complimentary. And um, it's like you when I told John, and he didn't know who I was talking about because I don't know that he'd ever met her in person. And so I'm trying to tell him, remind him, you met her here when we were in Idaho, and I pulled up a picture of her, and I just started crying, just trying to describe her to him because she someone that I only been around 3 or 4 times had such an enormous impact on me. And because of you, you introduced her to me, and I got to know her because of you and because of Bear Valley and the things, I think I mentioned this a few episodes ago when we were talking about her. It was a morning that one of the times that I saw her, it was a morning that I had something kind of hard going on in my life. And she didn't even know me that well, but she looked at me and she kind of cocked her head and said, "What's wrong?" And I immediately just burst into tears. And she just pulled me into this big bear hug. And I have a picture of that day, and my eyes are still red, but I thought, I want to be like this woman that has the ability to make me, she doesn't even know me all that well, but she does because she's read things or we've talked. And I don't even know what all to say about her other than that she was um, just the kind of woman that I want to be, the genuine kind of woman that thinks about, talks about, loves the Lord. And that's first. It's just obvious that it's first in her life. And it's been interesting to read all of the things that, and people I didn't know knew her, reading things that they say about her, and to know, oh, well, it wasn't just me and I knew it wasn't just me that felt that way, but all of these people feel that way about her. And so what a great woman to talk about and think about as we're talking about this topic today. So I'm glad that you had that idea.
Well, I think the way you described her was perfect. I mean, just spot on. And probably the greatest conviction that I walk away with from knowing her is that she still cared about others, even when her own life was so difficult, and I think probably I'm lean more toward being tempted by, I'll have time to think about other people when I get my own mess straightened out. Right now I've got this going on and this going on, and I'm worried about this, and I'm praying about this, and and I'll worry about all that stuff later. Or I can't think about that right now because I'm blah, blah, blah. And just knowing, she battled cancer and health issues for decades. So it wasn't like she always felt 100% wonderful and so she could be wonderful to other people.
Right.
You know, that wasn't the case. And it's not that she had a perfect family life. She experienced heartache in her own family, like we all do. But despite it all, she somehow always had a heart open to other people. And I don't think it's like she just, put her, we don't remember her because she put herself out there to be memorable.
Right.
It was just a natural result of her being genuinely interested
What a
and
great way of saying that. I love that.
genuinely, thank you, genuinely seeing others, and taking the time to see others and then having a heart that cares about others. And it was just the natural order of people that God put in her path, that God, if you just met her briefly, you'll never forget her because she saw you, she took an interest in you, and the words that she spoke would have refreshed your heart. That's just who she was.
Yeah.
And it never came across as scripted or artificial. That's just who she was. And you just kind of want to go, well, thanks. Thanks
Yeah.
for that. And we can all do that, and she lived in Salmon, Idaho, which is this tiny little town out in the middle of nowhere, Idaho, beautiful part of the state, but it's not close to any major city by any means. Yet look at the impact that she
Mhm.
had. And I even know of people who met her for the first time nearing the end of her life after she was already put on hospice care, who met her in that stage and were still impacted by her. So if anybody had a, check please card, I'm done, it would have been her. But, till the end, she saw
Yeah.
other people and was genuinely living out Philippians 2. Consider others, consider others, consider others. And surely that's the key to why she smiled and she was joyful and she still had her sense of humor. At the end, it's because she wasn't self-absorbed. She genuinely loved and considered others.
Mhm. Well, I love that you said that she was memorable because she didn't set out to be memorable, because she was about other people instead of herself. And that's what I think was so shocking to me when you told me that she had passed, because I had just gotten a message from her, I don't
Mhm.
know, 3 or 4 days before that. And I didn't realize that she was that close to the end because she didn't sound like it. She didn't say anything about it. In fact, she wouldn't say anything about it unless I asked her about her cancer or how she was, or that's just not what her life was about. In fact, you talk about someone with victory. She
Mhm.
wasn't concerned with um, this life because she knew that the next one was going to be so much better. So you just got to talk to her not long ago, didn't you?
Yeah,
Spend an
I
hour
did.
on the phone with her not long ago.
I did, and that's why I was able to say she kept her sense of humor because, she dealt with some bizarre things that happened with her health, with near things that were happening. I won't go into all her private business here, but I just think about how much whining I did about in September when I was dealing with that one little issue, and she dealt with so much more. And she was like making jokes. I mean, like laughing about the things that would happen in daily life because of this or that, and just laughing, and just able to smile and able to keep a good heart and a good spirit about it. And you could tell she was grateful for every day of life and grateful for her loved ones and for the time that she still had with them, and also looking forward to going home.
Yeah.
I was going to mention that Paul, her husband, the day she died, sent out a text that said, "Today, Dina passed before sunrise to the sun who is risen for her." Wow, that's, I'm trying to say it where people can understand me. Dina passed before sunrise to the sun who is risen for her, SON. And he said that she's missed in so many ways, yet in time, what I will miss most will be her laughter.
Mm.
And again, considering some of the things that she had to deal with, she just kept her joy. And it made me wonder, what would Neil say about me?
Mm.
What's the thing that he would miss most about me?
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of impact that she had. And I think it's the perfect segue in today's topic of finding balance and being there for others and being there for your family. Um, how do we do that? The word is balance, right? That's the
Oh,
challenge. And I know we have listeners in all demographics listening. Um, we have people in college, we have young moms who feel the overwhelm of just trying to get some sleep with babies. And we have moms with teenagers and juggling all of the extracurricular activities. We have all the, and then when your kids leave home and you think the empty nest is going to be your time, and then you realize in some ways it feels like you have even less time. So it's not like it's one of those topics that you necessarily get figured out and never have to deal with again. With all the changes that come in life, don't you feel like you have to reevaluate, kind of restructure, reprioritize, and try and maintain that balance? Don't you agree?
oh, absolutely. I remember when I was a young mom, it would have been when Jordan and Jacob were like probably 3 and 5. And Midge Siebert was an elder's wife at Southwest where we attended. And I remember her saying, she was probably younger than I am right now, but not much. And she said, I'm busier now than I was when I had kids. And I remember resenting it a little bit because I thought, my life is crazy with all these kids and baseball practice and school. And so they must have been a little bit older, but now I see that she was right. It's just a different kind of busy. It's not the same things that make me busy, but it's just a different kind of busy. And so I think we just have to kind of get over it and get used to it. And I don't mean that in a ugly way, but we just know that there's always going to be something demanding our time and attention. So how do we deal with that?
And the challenge comes in that more often than not, all the opportunities that present themselves to us are good things. They're good things to go to, participate in, things you want to support. Generally, this is a Christian podcast. I'm sure most people listening are Christian women. And so you feel this desire there's all these opportunities out there now more than ever, and you want to be a part of it all. And you just can't. So the challenge is finding the balance and all of that, especially for those with children still at home who are trying to be present for their children, to be there for all those special family things. So um, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. I put on my notes here that this is the great ministry conundrum because anybody in ministry can kind of feel that same, pulled in all these different directions, and you have your church family and that you want to be a part of everybody's life, but you have your own family at home too. And sometimes it can feel like um, there's this imbalance, and
Mhm.
trying to find the right balance can be a conundrum there for those in.
Especially if you're a part of a congregation like you are that has good things going on all the time. And how do you know which ones you take part in and which ones you just can't? So, yeah.
Yeah, but I want to acknowledge that really it's the same challenge for any family trying to be faithful and involved, evangelistic, trying to practice benevolence, trying to be hospitable. Any faithful family is going to feel that same pull. All right, so I thought we would just talk about maybe two or three things. And the first one is maybe to start with shifting your mindset. That's where most things start, right? Shifting your mindset. And I always think back to when we went to college at Faulkner, we had Wendell Winkler as one of our instructors, and he was always saying, be balanced. And in particular, he was addressing those going into ministry, just be balanced, be normal. Don't, gain the whole world but lose your own family was a saying that he always brought up. Be balanced with your time. And so that's the challenge is finding the right balance. And I think I wanted to start out with shifting your mindset is because I think the problem comes in when we're picturing the balance. Maybe we're picturing like a balanced scales, and we put those good deeds or ministry on one side and family on the other, like they're two separate things. And then we're trying to keep them, I'm spending all this time in ministry, so now this is heavier, and that means that I'm spending less time with my family, or I'm spending too much time with my family and I'm neglecting some things I should be doing in ministry, and so they're out of balance. And how do I level those out and keep them that way? So I think that visual creates problems in and of itself. And really, the mindset shift should be to merge those together and to see that our family does ministry together. Ministry is our life. Ministering to others is our life, and we do it together as a family. And when you view it that way, then it's easier to kind of merge those things. We've talked on here before in an episode early on about, being a preacher's wife and being in ministry and how sometimes you have to get creative even with how you go on a date. That might look like you're going to go make visits together and then go out for coffee afterwards instead of, well, I'm going to do this thing your husband has to do this thing in ministry, but then make time to go on a date for you. But if you merge those things together, you can find that it's just as effective and even more meaningful, and will draw you even closer together. And I think same thing can be said for the family life. If we learn how to merge those together, our children are involved in caring for others with us. And so then you're able to care for others and spend time with your children. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And what what I'm thinking while you're talking is that this means that we have to be on the same page as a family. And
Mhm.
a lot of times we're not. And you're talking about shifting your mindset, or when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So sometimes, and the person that asked this question was asking on behalf of someone else, but and I don't know who it was, but I think I wonder, because I've been there, are we, is this family on the same page as far as ministry is concerned? And I assume that they are. I don't want to make things any worse for this person, but I think thinking back on my own mindset as a young mom, especially, I hesitate, and I'm ashamed to say that in some ways I resented so much of the time, not so much of the time, I resented some of the time that John spent in his ministry, because I felt like we were down on the totem pole. He had these things he had to do, and my way of looking at it was faulty, because it wasn't that he had to do it. It part of it was his job, but a lot of it was that this was something good that we can do together. And it wasn't until my kids were older that I realized that I am part of this ministry. It's not just John's job. It is a blessing. And John started praying this. He started praying, thanking God that we are allowed to work in ministry. And that helped me so much to see it as a blessing, as opposed to, I never saw it as a curse or as a drudgery or whatever, but I did not necessarily look at it as a blessing. I looked at it as a job, as a competition for my husband's time, as I don't know how I want to put it and make myself look terrible, but it helped me a lot when I started listening to his prayers, thanking God for the blessing of being involved in ministry, and realizing that, hey, this is what I'm put here to do too. And and I'm sure you're going to talk about this, that part of that ministry is raising your family. And it's a huge, huge part of it. But part of that can be what you're talking about, merging it together and being balanced together as a family, and all working together for the kingdom is more challenging when they're needing naps and, you know,
Mhm.
cranky and all that kind of stuff. But you're so right to change the way you look at things, to shift your mind.
Well, and it's not that it's necessarily easy. I mean, having small children isn't easy in general, no matter how you're spending your time, no matter what you're doing, you got to shift things around and get creative. But the conversation that we're having today is about how can we love on others but still be present for our children. So that's why I wanted to start with this mindset thing. And I love how you brought out, first of all, make sure everybody's on the same page. That is so key. And it's not a competition, and I have definitely, what you were talking about for those in ministry, I've definitely felt that in the past and still struggle with that to an extent.
Mhm.
But I find myself feeling that way when the calendar gets really, really, really crunchy. When we're not talking about, oh, we're doing these things together and we're so blessed to have this ministry together. It's when things get really, really, really crunchy, like every night is packed, every night something's going on, and I can't remember the last night we had that it was just the two of us together, and for me, that's a huge source of recharge is spending time with just the two of us together. And so I can tell when I'm starting to feel that resentment and that bitterness. And I think in some ways, that's a heart check opportunity. Is it because I'm being selfish and I'm wanting to spend my time more selfishly? Is it because things are out of balance and we need to do better at choosing how we spend our time and what we're committing to? So usually when those uncomfortable feelings start coming in, let it be a little bit of a wake up call. Oh, you know what? We need to have a conversation. I need to think this through. I need to pray about this. I need to have a heart check. What's going on? What's at the root of the problem? Instead of just going on in your overwhelm or your resentment or whatever it is, which is so easy to do because, and sometimes I think that knee-jerk reaction is in the back of my mind, this will this will lighten up next week or next month when things aren't so busy or when my kids are bigger and things aren't so big. You know what? That never comes. So go ahead and deal with it now, but start with shifting the mindset. I think about how easy that is to do when we're talking about loving on others. That usually looks like, visiting those who are shut in. You can make treats with your children and then take them with you on that visit. And everybody involved will love that. Hospitality, having people into your home, giving your children simple tasks, teaching them to engage with your guests, letting them help clean up afterwards, loving on them and all of their efforts. All of those are just things that not only are you allowing to love on others, but will feed all the good things about being there for your children. And then Bible studies, soul winning, how easy it is to merge those two things together and have your children at the table or a part of that wherever possible, and let them see it happening at your own kitchen table, in your own dining room, and all of your efforts instead of maybe always sending them off to something else while you go off and do this study. Let maybe look for ways to make them seem like it's a part of who you are in this home. It's a part of our life, things that we do together. So, shifting your mindset. Number two is prioritize. And this kind of builds on that first one is having that conversation, like you were saying, make sure everybody's on the same page. And that is, what is your number one objective as a family? What is your number one objective? Because once you've had that conversation, and for the Christian, those probably all look very similar. But what is your number one objective? Spell it out. And that way, all the choices that come at you daily, weekly, monthly, annually, is that going to support our number one objective? And I think probably a lot of things that we put on our calendar and that we commit to really don't. They may be things that we think we should be a part of because everybody else is, or, whatever it might be, but really hold it up to that objective or that priority and see how it supports it.
Mhm.
And, once you start, to me, it's like you've heard people talk about the minimalist wardrobe. It's like once you figure out what your style is or what your colors are, that cancels out all the other wardrobe noise, and when you're shopping, you don't get distracted by what's latest, what's trendy, what's colorful, what's on sale, blah, 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 because you know what you're going in there for. You know what you
Mhm.
wear, you know what you like, and it makes it so much easier. And then when you go to your closet, you don't have decision fatigue because it's so much easier. Everything coordinates, everything goes. It's because you've taken the time to sit down and say, this is what works for me.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing can probably be done with our schedules. This is our objective. This is what we've chosen is important for our family and what our family needs. And in some ways, putting things through that filter is going to make it easier to say, is this going to land on our calendar? Maybe every once in a while, but not a weekly commitment.
Yeah. It's ironic that while you're talking, my brain is, with how you've got that one track that you're intentionally thinking about, and then the one that's like running off on its own. And I'm thinking, okay, I've got to get I'm supposed to make salad and bring chips and a dessert for the family, before Bible class meal tonight. And I have x-rays, and then I have mom that I need to see this afternoon. And so those things are sort of warring in my mind with what I need to be doing right now, which is focusing on this. But um, you're talking about prioritizing, and I think there's some expectations in there that we think come from other people that don't necessarily come from other people. They come from our own mind, whether it's all the activities that are planned, especially this time of the year. You have the uh, cookie decorating and the ornament exchange, and you have this and this and this that you have to do, that you think that everyone expects you to be there. And honestly, not everyone expects you to be there. How do you handle that? How does your resentment come out when you're talking about it to someone? Well, I don't have time to be at that. How in the world do they expect me to do all the things that are set up to be done this week? There's just no way. There's naps and there's this and this and this. And again, I don't know who asked this question, and so I'm not assuming that they are having this kind of an attitude. But if we can communicate lovingly about it and just say, that's just something that I can't really fit in with our priorities and our schedule. Just the way that we communicate those
Mhm.
priorities is
Mhm.
something that we can all think about and focus on. And I wanted to just there's something one of my daughters-in-law lately has been saying, it's not my turn, or she'll say it's my turn. And I know what she's talking about because she told me about this, what she had seen online. Uh, and it has made a big impression on her. And I think it's helpful for other people to think about it. I'm not sure if it came from her view from home, but where I found it was on a blog called Okie Sunshine. I went looking for it because she had told me about it. So I'm not sure who it originated with, but it's just called It's Not My Turn. And it says, it's not my turn. It's not my turn to go where I want, when I want. It's not my turn to put my wants and needs first. It's not my turn to get butterflies on a first date. It's not my turn to plan a wedding. I've had my turn. It's not my turn to leisurely enjoy my coffee with slow mornings. It's not my turn to explore all of my interests and hobbies. It's not my turn to spend my days as I please. It's not my turn to spoil grandchildren. Hopefully, I'll have my turn. It's not my turn to take a Mediterranean vacation. It's not my turn to maintain a luscious backyard oasis. It's not my turn to have abs. I don't think it's ever going to be my turn to have abs. It's not my turn to binge watch Netflix when I've had a hard week. Maybe one day I'll have a turn, or maybe not. But it is my turn. It's my turn to have some sleepless nights. It's my turn for late night snacks so I don't have to share. It's my turn to have my clothes stretched out by little hands. It's my turn to have fingerprints on the screen door. It's my turn to have cocoa melon stuck in my head. It's my turn to do laundry, so much laundry. It's my turn to keep romance alive amidst the routine. But even more than that, it's my turn to start family traditions. It's my turn to memorize the perfect squishiness of chubby baby faces. It's my turn to let a popsicle make anything better. It's my turn to heal boo-boos with a kiss. It's my turn to cuddle and rock. It's my turn for park days and play dates. It's my turn for first steps, first words, and first days of school. It's my turn to earn my laugh lines and gray hairs. It's my turn to soak up the beautiful, exhausting magic of motherhood while the turn is still mine.
I love
And I
that.
think, man, it's just, it's a stage in life. And
Mhm.
we are in one ourselves. And
Mhm.
it's our turn for different things than it is for younger mothers. But
Mhm.
we had our turn and we lived through our turn and we graduated to a different turn. So looking at it that way and looking at priorities and figuring out what those priorities are, I think it's something we all have to go through.
I love that. And it's, the perspective of the looking back versus being in the trenches. And the writer of that made it sound so sweet. There all the things that she mentioned with the fingerprints on the glass sliding door, whatever. I'm envisioning all of that. I'm just recalling all of that. And on this side of things, my recollection is only sweet and sentimental and oh, I miss all that. But I remember being in the moment how exhausting and overwhelming it is and how you wish you had more time for yourself or to do all these other things. And so I love that whole phrase idea. That's really good.
Yeah. Well, she said it when I first heard her say it was at a meal when she can't sit down. She's got little ones and I said, are you gonna eat? And she said, it's not my turn. And I thought I knew what she was talking about. She was referring to this little essay or whatever. So
Mhm.
yeah, just remember you will have a turn
Yeah,
later.
that's cute. I was thinking about those old-fashioned pocket calendars. Do you remember those?
Hmm.
You'd flip them up and the whole month was there and you would just write in. And I say bring back the old pocket calendar because I loved how easy it was to see at a glance what your month was shaping up like. And, now I still do paper planner because I like it better, but mine is by the week, because there's all this space where you can write down what you want to do every day. Um, but with that old pocket planner, in light of priorities, just kind of keep something like that in mind and list out what you're committing to for the week or for the month. And sometimes just seeing it in black and white can help you see what needs to be shifted around, what's out of um, order, what's out of balance, what is taken away from the priority that you're trying to accomplish, what's leaving you feeling frustrated. Some things you actually do have control over.
Yeah.
Some things we don't, but some things we do. And if it's something you're wanting to do for others, is really taking away too much time for your family, then, maybe this isn't your season for that, like you were saying. But if something you're doing with or for your family is keeping you from ever serving others, what is that thing that you've committed to? And does it even reach your objective? Doesn't even reach your priority? I think about those with older children. Are there things that you're committing them to every single week that are keeping you from serving in the way that you want to, that supports your priority for a Christian family? Those kinds of things that we can question. What kinds of things are taking up our time, and are they actually supporting our number one priority, our objective? I saw this illustration that I loved, and it said, the things we do things to us. And the illustration was of somebody painting. They were like painting this person on a canvas, and it showed the person on the canvas reaching out and painting the heart on the artist. And so the illustration there was, they were putting time into this painting, but the act of doing that art was doing something for their heart. And
Mm.
I just thought, what a true statement that is. Obviously outside of creative, but everything that we do, the things that we choose to do are doing things to us. The things that we choose to do are impacting our families. And so thinking about it that way, and with your every yes or your every no, you're investing in something. And
Yeah.
so being able to prioritize what your number one objective is as a family might make it easier to determine what all you say yes and no to.
What do you think that your boys would say looking back on their childhood? What they remember the most about your work in Virginia or your work in Colorado? I say work meaning your ministry. what do you think they would, I mean, it might be interesting to have a conversation with them and ask them, what do you remember about that? And what do you remember about me? I think that if my boys were honest with me, they could say some not very complimentary things about how I handled certain situations. But I think at the same time that their life was pretty sweet. I know it was because of the people that we came into contact with in ministry and the service that they saw and that they did. I think it'd be interesting to have that conversation with our kids.
I think the highlights, especially in light of this conversation looking back, would be those times that we spent time with other families, had people in our home, those kinds of things. Looking back, and we've had this conversation before, but I definitely have regrets.
Mm,
I do. And we chose to homeschool just because of certain, well, that's a long story. We chose to homeschool. And so I was even with my children, a lot. But I still feel like looking back, I spent way too much time on my laptop doing
mm,
other things. They were good things, if you will, but I feel like those were things that I could have shifted down the road.
mhm,
And probably if they were to look back on an image of me, I was in the room with them, but I was also working on my laptop. And is that the image that they've captured? And even though Neil was the one that went off to work, I think he did the better job of creating more impactful memories with them because um, every opportunity he could, he would take one of them with him, on a gospel meeting and include them in visits. And, we started taking them on mission trips, which was his idea, So I think those things that they probably look back on fondly, Neil instigated and saw, the importance of. So, I don't know. I think all three of my sons are too sweet to be honest with me. They really are. I think they would say, "Oh, you were perfect, Mom." But that's just because that's how they are, and looking back, I think I would do some things differently.
yeah. And I think where this person was coming from has children smaller that probably won't have memories maybe of this time. And so, talking about babies and little bitty ones uh that what they need is security and love and maybe they don't get to nap in their crib or whatever they sleep in on a Sunday, but they'll sleep on your shoulder and it's going to be okay.
Mhm.
Um I think that's what I kept thinking about when I was reading this, being when you feel spread thin because of all of these good things, it's gonna be okay. And I hesitate to even say that because we even mentioned this not too long ago. Well, why didn't I think of that? It's gonna be okay. I mean, that doesn't help. It really doesn't help to hear that. But I hope it does a little bit that you might not make every decision perfectly right when they're little bitty and you feel super spread thin. But but if your priority, like you're talking about, if your priorities are right, it's gonna be okay. Your
Well, and you
children
had
are not.
mentioned earlier, what's our attitude when we're making those decisions and if we're having to, give a gentle no to somebody. What's our attitude? It's because you're just so busy and so swamped and you can't possibly, that attitude is going to seep out into our families as well. And if your heart is, you want to be there for your family and you want to be there for others, they're going to see that,
Mhm,
that it's not a matter of, oh, there's just so much going on. I can't stand it. They're going to see that. But
mhm.
if your heart is, I really feel this desire to want to love on the people that God's put in my life, but I also know that I need to be present for my children. They're going to see that desire in you and how you're trying to accomplish it while you're taking care of your children. And you may not always do it perfectly, but they're going to see that it comes from the very best place possible, of one that just wants to be the hands of Christ for others. They're also going to see if you're just constantly filled with bitterness and resentful because your time is not your own.
The story of my life is this visual that I have in my mind of a balloon that's blown up really tight. And if we are wise enough to just let a little air out gently and kindly, then it's just going to seep out, communicate carefully. But what ends up happening is we blow it up so tight that all of a sudden it just flies everywhere and it's zipping around the room and think of it as an angry balloon at that point.
Mhm.
That's what happens to me when I let things get built up too much and I don't let it out and don't communicate lovingly. I keep using those words like I know what they mean because I'm not very good at it, but just say, why can't we just say, I'm feeling some pressure and I need, can we talk about this? Or I just need to blow off some steam to you, John. Okay. But what ends up happening is I blow it up and then all of a sudden I'm zipping around the room angry. So
Mhm.
learn to not be like me and communicate when you start feeling it, when you start feeling yourself going down that road, that that angry road, let a little steam off carefully and lovingly, and then you're not going to pop and explode.
Well, and we have to bring up dear old Martha. That's where she found herself in all of her busyness. She started worrying about the wrong things and becoming resentful of others and taking it out on others. And, the Lord had to set her straight. Martha, Martha.
Yeah.
I know there are many, many times we need a Martha, Martha
Yeah.
moment. So
And said just like
we may
that.
be doing with good things, doing good things, but if it ends up souring our attitudes, that kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
All right,
Yep.
we need to move along here. So the last thing I wanted to mention is protect the blank space. And I've talked about this on here before, but again, back to the idea of the pocket calendar, if you will. And you've got things that you've already committed to in your week. And then, an opportunity comes up, somebody asks you to do something or to participate in something or whatever it is. If that's your only blank space left that week, try to do your best to protect it and leave a blank space, protect the blank space because, you think, oh, yeah, I've got that night open. And it looks good on paper until you're living it out. And then
Mhm.
you had no nights at home with your family. Um, no dinner, no time at the dinner table with your family. None just your family for devotional or whatever it is that you need to be doing together. And, it's really, really easy to add things to the calendar, remind me that I've committed to this and I've got this appointment and we're doing this and we're participating in this. And then if we were to lay it all out, everything that we've committed to, and there's no blank spaces in the calendar, that is a recipe for overwhelm and bitterness and resentment. And you may be able to do it all. You might be that kind of personality, but I think at some point it'll catch up to you. And if not you, it will your family. So I
And
think
that's
it's very important to protect the blank space. If Thursday night is your only night open, keep it that way. Protect it. Um, you
and
know,
that's another area you have to be on the same page.
you have to be on the same page. If your weekend is already looking crunchy because, that's supposed to be when you have a little bit of time off, maybe, but you've got all these good things going on that you're a part of. Try not to overlap or try to keep at least one night free for you to spend together as a family or doing something together as a family for somebody else,
And
So
you're doing that for God too, because it's your family.
yes, exactly. So protect the blank space. And that's really hard to do. It's harder than it sounds.
Mm.
But when you figure out how to do it lovingly, as you say, and gently, it's not like you've upended somebody else and created more problems for them or you've disappointed somebody else. If you know where your priorities are and you know how best you need to support it, and you're making the decision because of that, God will bless that good decision. You're trying to choose what's best for the souls in your household that God's given you responsibility for. So I think, the challenge is making sure it's all coming from the right motives. We're
Mm.
not talking about, I need me time. I know that self-care is a thing and, but we're really not talking about, I really just need all this extra time for me, or I really need an excuse to be able to say no to being inconvenienced. We're not talking about that. But we are talking about finding balance and all of that for those who do already so many things and they feel overwhelmed by it all. And they feel like because they're doing all these things, their own family's being neglected.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you just need to shift things around a little bit and keep things in balance and, that things aren't being neglected, that God has put in your lap and you're the only one responsible for your children.
Well said.
Thanks. Anything else you want to say?
Well, no, the only thing that I wrote down, the only other thing I wrote down is that we might need to have a take a long, hard look at ourselves and decide if we are using our time wisely. Because I mean, this goes along with prioritizing things, but are I if I looked at my schedule, I could find some areas where I could cut down on this or that, and maybe my time is not being used wisely. And you have to define it yourself. What's wise? You know, if this is something that you really need to do for your family, is this something you really need? You know, if you need a bath every night, if you just need a 10-minute soak by yourself, then you're using your time wisely. But maybe you need to look at it again and reevaluate whether or not you're using your time wisely. And I don't mean that unkindly in the least, because we can all improve in that area. But if we're not using our time wisely, then maybe that's part of the schedule. Maybe that's part of what we can do to not be spread so thin, is if we can reshift things around.
Well, and I almost hate to bring up the social media thing because I feel like I talk about that a lot, but probably because I feel the pressure there too, maybe part of why we're spread so thin is because we've got that presence also,
Mhm.
and we're giving that space probably for good things, that we're trying to do and support, but we're giving that space, that social media space, our presence
Mhm.
um, in ways that, can be time wasters, but they can also be good things. So evaluate that too in light of the presence that you need to have with the real people that God's placed in your lap right
Yeah.
now.
Yep.
So that's another one to consider.
Mhm. Good.
Okay, good conversation. Do you have something good for us?
I do. I it's I wish that I had it to show you, but I don't because I ate it. But it's peanut brittle at that same vintage marketplace.
Hmm.
I mentioned that they had all the food, but I don't know if you like peanut brittle. I'm not a huge peanut brittle lover. Like some of it now and again. But there was a vendor. Actually, it was where I bought this little thing. And she said, if you like peanut brittle, the best peanut brittle I've ever had is at that booth down there. So I went down there and bought a little package. And it's called Okie Brittle, like Oklahoma, Okie Brittle. And they have a website, okiebrittle.com. And it's not super cheap when you buy. I mean, I guess they add their shipping into the price. But I feel a little bit silly saying that my something good for you is peanut brittle, but it really is delicious peanut brittle. So if you want some good peanut brittle, okiebrittle.com.
Okiebrittle.com. All
Mm.
right. All right. Mine is a decluttering hack that I ran across 2 or 3 weeks ago and I put into practice and I absolutely love it. And it is so all the boxes that are coming into your house on the daily right now,
Mhm.
you just when one comes in and you take out whatever you've ordered, fill it with something else from your house and go put it out in the trunk of your car to drop off at the drive-through Goodwill or whatever thrift store that you support. And when when I first ran across this, I sent it to all my daughters-in-law, and I was like, this is brilliant.
Mhm.
And it's almost embarrassing how many boxes, of course, we're all shopping for the holidays, but it's almost embarrassing to me how many boxes are coming in on a regular. And I'm opening them up and putting them in the extra room on my main floor and then choosing a drawer. So I've gone through a couple of kitchen drawers. I went through a cabinet, and just filling them up with things that can be passed along to a thrift store. And then I had them all lined up, and then Neil loaded them up in the back of his truck and took them into town for me. So I loved the idea though, because with so much stuff coming in, it's really easy to just fill those boxes and send it back out. And I can't remember if I shared that on here or not, but husbands love it because they don't have to break down those boxes anymore. They're just being filled with good things and sent right back out. So that decluttering hack is my something good for you.
I saw that too, and I thought it was brilliant. I've done a little bit of it, but it also means that it's a really good time to go thrifting.
No, that defeats the purpose.
Oh, but I mean, people are giving away some good stuff right now. I mean, you can
That's true.
still, if something comes in from the thrift store, you can turn around and send something back out.
That's true. You can use the same principle. Yeah. All right. Well, enjoy talking to you. I know this ran a little bit long, but until next time, Carla.
Keep looking up.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right.